Joining us now is Bills General Manager Brandon Beane, live here at the NFL Combine. And thanks, as always, for giving us some time, as you do every year here. We appreciate it. Let's just jump right into it. I would imagine this would qualify as good news. You get the salary cap figure. It's $255.4. So the question is, how much do you feel that has reduced the burden that sits in front of you of becoming cap compliant?
Yeah, I mean, listen, every dollar is a dollar you can use in your advantage. So it's definitely good to finally have that, because we've been speculating and we were not speculating that high. You're always trying to take a conservative approach to what you're doing. But we've been looking at everything. We've had conversations with different players about different things. Some of that has started. Some of those will pick up this week. And, we know we've got a time crunch here, the next couple of weeks that we have to be in compliance. But, yes, 255, much better than 245. Not as good as 265. But we're happy. We'll take what we can get.
Right.
And we still have work to do.
Yeah.
Brandon, you guys have quite a few free agents. We heard from Sean McDermott yesterday, and he talked about Gabe Davis and just how much this team has loved Gabe Davis and what he's offered to the offense. But he's somebody who's a free agent. Have you guys had any discussions with him in his camp yet?
Yeah, I mean, we've always, with most of our players, we've had some kind of conversation, whether it was the spring, the summer, in season, postseason. It's never been we're not going to talk about it. Like, we're always open dialogue, hearing them out, them hearing us. Gabe is one of those guys that special love for, and you guys have heard, we've always want to say we want to draft, develop, and sign. There is a cap on everything, and we've had to see. Last year we had to see a Tremaine Edmonds walk, and there's been a guy here or there that, you're still trying to fit the puzzle, and as we every year into paying a quarterback, the allotment just gets a little tighter. So we'll have open conversations, with Gabe and his reps all the way up into free agency, and we'll see where it goes. You would always love to keep a guy like Gabe. He's been such a pro team captain this year, which was cool and an honor for him. And you'll never get me, saying a bad word about Gabe. He's been awesome the 4 years, and we'll find out here in a few weeks if it's something we're able to continue or not.
I know from a sheer numbers standpoint, there's work to do on the D-line there. I mean, 8 of your 12 guys are unrestricted.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned at your season wrap-up press conference, DaQuan was kind of a guy you'd love to have back in the fold. So I assume you're kind of traveling down that same path. But at the same time, with your cap situation, and I think you've mentioned this in past years, you kind of say, hey, here's the value we put on you. If you want to try to see if you can do better in the market, that's your prerogative, and absolutely go and do that. But here's where we are. Do you do that with people like DaQuan that you want back in the fold?
Yes, definitely. At the right time with each guy, and listen, we listen. It's an open dialogue. Like, some guys, they're like, hey, I really want to stay here. I don't want to leave. Let's see if we can knock this out. I'd rather not wait to free agency. Some players are like, hey, you know what? I've gone this far. I want to have conversations. I want to know if you guys are interested. But I don't know if I want to commit till, my agent does some research at the combine and then the weeks, from once we leave here till it actually starts. So it's an open dialogue. Every situation's its own. But, with DaQuan, yes, we'll have conversations. And if we can get it worked out, a value that works for him and a value that works for us, we'd love to have it back.
But that's got to be tough, because you've got a laundry list of people that you want to try to get some kind of definitive response on to, like, hey, this is headed in this direction. All right, let's budget that accordingly. This is in this direction. Let's budget that. Okay, this guy does want to come back. We can budget. But if you've got guys that want to wait, it's like, hey, the clock's ticking here.
Yeah, it's the problem, and they
got to massage that like constantly.
You do, and you're playing a little bit of poker here too, right? Because you're also filling out the market. What are the options at that position? In DaQuan's case, D tackle. Like, what are your other viable options? Should he go elsewhere? And it is a game. That is one of the things. If you take it into free agency, we have to also assume that you're going to leave. So once that negotiating window opens 2 days prior, it's kind of we're all kind of in this.
It's open season.
It's open season, and if we don't have a deal in place or something that seems imminent, then we also have to have conversations with other players at that position.
You got to do right by the organization at the end
We
of the day.
got to protect the Bills first and foremost. We want the best for all our guys. Who wouldn't want Gabe Davis, DaQuan Jones, run down the gamut? I mean, we love our guys. There's very few times I'm done with that guy. I wouldn't want to see him back in a Bills uniform.
Well, we really want to get an update on Trey White and Matt Milano's health. We've seen both of them in the building rehabbing, so where are they at in that rehab process? And then with Trey White, how do you kind of balance where this team is at with the cap situation and then the injury that he had? Because it does take quite some time to recover from that injury.
Yeah, Trey, we've talked about it. We'll start with him. It's just what he's meant to this organization and everything he's done. And to have the injury in 21, we all saw him work so hard to come back. Probably wasn't looking like the Trey White that he wanted to be at the end of the 22 season. But really we're starting to see him come into form. I'm not going to say he was all the way back or not. You'd have to ask him. But you were definitely seeing a guy who was trending up, and then all of a sudden this Achilles on the other side pops, and it's just like, man, can the guy get a break? And it's just, you feel for him. But once again, he has attacked this thing. He's in there all the time. I've had breakfast with him a couple of times here since the season's ended because, these guys it's lonely. You got a locker room full of 75, 80 players, and all of a sudden you got 3 or 4 guys, rehabbing down there. But he has worked super hard. He's been a main staple here since Sean and I got here, and he's continuous rehab. I don't have like a definitive timeline of yet when he'd be back, but he's doing well, working hard, everything you would expect from Trey White.
And then what about Matt Milano as well?
Yeah, Matt, thanks for the reminder. So Matt, same thing. He had a recent visit with one of the docs that did his surgery, and so all is going well. It's a little bit of a different injury than an ACL or an Achilles or things that happen to a lot of football players. So we're still working with him. He's working his way back, very positive, anticipating his things to continue to ramp up. I don't know what yet he would look like in OTAs if we would even have clearance for him to fully participate. I think it's one of those things you'll see him on the side or doing stuff, and maybe there's a chance. But we're optimistic that Matt will be ready to go at the right time when the pads come on.
Okay, so like training camp, it's probably trending good for that, you think?
We, as we sit here today, I would say so.
Okay.
But we still got a lot of time.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to sit here and say it's day one of training camp either. I think it's he is working hard. He's doing well. The updates so far have been positive.
Right.
And Matt, like he's a super optimistic guy. Just sleeps, eats ball all the time. It's all. You almost have to force him to go enjoy himself a little bit.
You said last month no big splashes in free agency based on the cap situation. So what should we expect? How would you describe how you feel you're going to be able to proceed in the free agent market?
Yeah, I mean, part of that is we're still working through, like, what can we create? We're not trying to also pile up a huge dead cap hit in 1 year or anything like that. So we're trying to, we're looking at various, options, whether we extend a guy, whether we alter his current contract, whether we just convert him and again, put it on the credit card and move it down. So we're looking at everything. Every guy's had. You saw we got Connor McGovern done, which was just a straight kind of move it down. We're working. We got kind of buckets for each.
Yeah, I can imagine
each one, and we're trying to massage it and get it down. Yes, the 255 number helped for what we need to get under, but you're right. Now, how much can you get under that you can go spend? And one of the things that gets lost, Chris, is you still have to save money for draft picks,
rookie pool,
and you're going to spend $3.5 million on practice squad players. Like, people don't realize, and then replacement players. Like, I think we spent over $5 million on replacement players this year.
Yeah, for injury, right?
So those things add up, and you can't go into the season, with $100 in your pocket and expect to make it through a 17-game season. So all of those things. So just because you're $5 million under doesn't mean you really have $5 million to spend. We're also kind of preparing, to be able to go into the season and pay your practice squad and also replacement players.
When you look at free agency, the market for veteran safeties this year will be quite flooded again, just like it was last year. How does that impact your approach to going after that position, knowing that there's quite a few safeties on this roster set to become free agents?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does help, and it kind of goes back to that conversation of who you're bringing back, who and what position they're going to fill, what are their strengths, what is out there in the market. Again, what is the price? What are we looking for out of our safeties? We've been fortunate here to have two guys, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer for almost all of 7 seasons, which is something I've been in this league 26 years now or something. I've never seen a safety tandem stay together for that long, either due to injury or free agency or whatever. So we've been spoiled, and so trying to find guys to continue that is never going to be easy. But we'll still work through our stuff, and we'll pay attention to not only our own guys but what else is out there as we look to fill spots.
We've seen, and maybe it's partly due to the fact that you have less time on the field in pads for players, but we've seen a lot of your guys really kind of crescendo in the third year of their rookie contract. Spencer Brown, Dawson Knox. I mean, you can run down the list of guys that have done that. This is year 3 coming up for Kaiir Elam. Knowing the year 3 history of a lot of your draft choices and the fact that there is some new young blood on the defensive staff, on the back end of your coaching staff defensively, do you think it could be a fresh start this year for Kaiir?
Yeah, you hope so. Listen, I thought, it was kind of a weird year. I thought he started camp really well. He has this foot deal that was probably bothering him more than he let on.
Yeah.
It affected him, and then we finally set him down because he did not look like the same guy. We set him down, and I thought when he came back, he was playing much more free. Obviously, he had the interception, and he would probably say he should have had 2, and we would echo that. If he catches that ball against Pittsburgh. But Kaiir is a guy that we still have a lot of belief in, and sometimes a fresh start for anyone is good. But we left it even before coaching changes or whatever happened with our defensive staff. We left it with him that, hey, come back here, ready to roll, new, fresh, just all new outlook. Let's go. Let's hit the ground running. Hopefully, no setbacks. And Kaiir's done some good things for us. Has everything been perfect? No. But to your point, we've had some other guys that this is a different animal from college to pro, and some guys get to there quicker than others. They're not all going to be a Dalton Kincaid or even Saibo this year.
Yeah.
Some guys take a little longer. AJ Epinesa,
Spencer Brown.
I thought Epinesa in his 3rd and 4th year really ascended as well from what he was kind of his first 2 years.
During the last couple press conferences that you guys held heading into the offseason, we heard from you and Sean and several players saying, this team is 1 to 2 plays away from getting over that hump, from winning the big-time games, to getting into an opportunity to play in the Super Bowl. Once you looked back at the season and the film, is there something concrete that you need within this offense, whether it's in the free agency or in the draft, that you think you can get those 1 to 2 plays?
Well, I think, again, Maddie, we always believe it starts up front. Obviously, you got to have a quarterback, and we all believe in Josh. And I think this was the best year for our O-line since we had been here. I thought it was our best group. Fortunately, I know we had some injuries on defense. Fortunately, on offensive line, those guys all stuck together and played out all year. I thought that really helped our offense. And then, so you start there because that allows you to run the ball. I thought we had some really good games, especially late in the year running the ball. It also helps you, pass protect. I thought our pocket was as clean as it had been in years for Josh, that's where it starts. And then you're talking about adding weapons, whether it's Diggs, Kincaid, Cook out of the backfield, Shakir came on late, just the various pieces. So we'll always look for guys. I said that when we drafted Kincaid, like what are some mismatch pieces? Don't get caught up in running back or receiver or tight end or whatever skill position it is. If there's a mismatch player that we can add to this offense that gives Joe Brady and staff just different opportunities, because you play all sorts of defenses. You play teams that want to press. You play teams that want to just play too high shell and play back and make you dink and dunk the ball down the field. So you want as many options as you can because you're going to face different battles, teams that want to blitz the heck out of you, teams that rarely blitz. So how many answers can we provide to our coaches for each week? Because every week is its own, kind of its own game in itself of how you game plan.
You mentioned, or at least threw it out there last month at your season wrap-up, that you may have to rely on some younger players here going forward, just, again, to the nature of your cap and where you can spend and how much you can spend. And I know sometimes in the past you've also referred to the Kansas City build being 1 or 2 years ahead of you guys because they got started 1 or 2 years ahead of you guys.
Right.
And they went with a big youth movement a couple of years ago. Do you kind of feel like you're at that point in your build?
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to have to rely. It's just it's the nature of the beast with the cap. They obviously made a big decision a couple years ago to part with Tyreek Hill, which I'm sure was not easy.
Yeah.
We get to face him now twice a year instead of once a year.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, but that was not an easy decision for them. But they did it knowing where their cap was and that they were going to have to rely on youth. So yes, as that cap tightens to where it has tightened on us, just again more years. Every year you're adding a franchise quarterback onto there, you're going to have to push money down, and which we'll have to continue to do. But you will have to rely on more young players, and that's where the onus. I'm looking at the man in the mirror. I've got to do a really good job of putting our scouts on the right guys, pointing them to me, and us finding value in when we're shopping in free agency. And then, right now we got 10 picks in this draft. We've got to hit them, and we got to count on them. And we're going to have to get some guys up to speed, and we may have to roll out some guys earlier than we have before. They got to be ready, and again, it starts with me making sure that that we're bringing the right guys in.
Speaking of hitting on those picks, we're at the NFL Scouting Combine. You've been doing interviews with prospects. They're about to test in the next couple of days as well. Where do you see depth in this year's draft class?
I think it's a pretty good class. I mean, I do think on the offensive side. It seems like every year there's just receivers. So you start there. Offensive line, I think there's some tackles. There's also some tackles that can play guard. I would say there's more tackles than guards this year, where some years it's been the other way. On defense, I think there's some D-line. I do think there's some tackles and ends. I think there's some guys on the back end as well. So I think we'll have some opportunities to find some players in various rounds. We're obviously just now getting to know some of these guys other than the ones we met at the Senior Bowl. So it's been a fun start, and we'll know a lot more at the end of the week.
Brandon, I know you got a lot of work over the next 2 weeks. Good luck getting it done. Thanks, as always, for the time. And we'll catch up with you a little bit later on down the line here this offseason. Good luck.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right,
Thanks,
that's
Brandon.
Bills General Manager Brandon Beane joining us here on One Bills Live.